Dysregulation is not always a bad thing. And in fact, in some situations or circumstances, we might seek it out.
We'll pay money to be dysregulated on purpose. I dysregulate those kids at camp. We pay to go see a horror movie and get dysregulated. And now I'm starting to ask myself, where else do we actively want to be dysregulated on purpose? Hey, welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
So I've got a question for you, Antonia.
Yes, Joel.
That I'd like to unpack on this episode. We have been talking about dysregulation and self-regulation a lot.
That's true.
And we're going to continue to talk about this.
Also true.
We were in a conversation recently, and I was like, wait a minute. I think we assume as humans that the word dysregulation has negative connotation to it. Immediately, like we say dysregulation, that's bad and that's not good. And self-regulation or being regulated is good. And we're talking about using the personality map of ourselves to be able to find the four primary areas or channels that we're dysregulated on: of sensing, feeling, thinking, or intuition. And we think that personality is going to give us a map to find where this is in our personhood and be able to address it. So for example, if I'm cognitively dysregulated, I might show it emotionally, but the work might be to fix the cognition that's dysregulated to feel better. Like I'll keep the emotions like crazy until I feel better cognitively.
Well,
right?
To make a one-to-one correlation with the sensing, the feeling, the thinking, and the intuition, we're mapping those to sensing is related to somatic regulation. Feeling is related to emotional regulation.
That's right.
Thinking is related to cognitive regulation, and intuition is related to what we're calling existential regulation.
That's right. So now I'm remembering my younger years. I grew up at a summer camp, and I was just up at my parents' camp recently, and I was kind of around the energy of it, this high octane kind of youthful energy. A lot of teenagers, obviously it's a teen camp. So in my 20s, here I am running like large 100 to 200 person camp meetings with these teenagers, right? And I remember purposely amping up the energy of the room. Basically whipping the group of kids into this like excited, larger than life experience. Like I can remember, like there's games we play, there's songs we sing, there's competition we do. And intentionally it's designed to raise the energy of everybody, almost create this like manic, like people are cheering and chanting and singing and excited. And there's more energy by the end of this experience, this meeting that we held before the beginning. Like we had more at the end of it. And then obviously there's a message of God and like there's like a talk and stuff at the end. And it's more purposeful and you try to bring everybody down to a certain emotion. But I remember, and then during gameplay at camp, you're trying to get kids into like this excitable state. And sometimes it was hard to bring people back from this state. Like once a group of teenagers gets excited and they're a little rowdy, you can lose control of that group very quickly. So you have to there's a lot of techniques that we have to do in, camp culture or camp directorship to help you have just enough energy, but you don't want kids to hurt each other or get unruly or cause problems, right? You don't want Woodstock 99 where they're tearing down the stage, right? And Limp Bizkit's singing and they're like breaking stuff and lighting fires. That's too far of the excitement level. But you do want to get kids a little bit out of their normal homeostasis kind of rhythm. You try to amp up the energy and get everybody excited.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing, wait a minute. In that environment, I'm basically trying to get a group of people to be dysregulated in a way. Now, it's not dysregulated to cause harm or to be in a down cycle. It's actually for excitement. I'm taking them from maybe a thermostat setting and I'm amping up this manic over the top energy. And it actually does shut off the brain a little bit. It puts people into more groupthink. In a way, it was always easier for me to control a group of people that are high energy than low energy. Mm-hmm. They kind of get more monolithic in their thinking, and you can actually kind of start to use that energy and shape and move it and utilize it. So it was very useful from a leadership standpoint. Plus, I think everybody had a better experience of it. It's more fun. It's more entertaining. You feel more, it's like, I love the competition. This team over there, that team, no, we're the better team, the cheering and all the amping up. But I think the people are dysregulated. So when I'm thinking about this, I want to get clearer on our definitions of dysregulation. I've associated the dysregulation as a bad thing in my head. Mm-hmm. And I'm now challenging that premise to go, wait a minute, is dysregulation not always bad? In some ways, are we seeking to be dysregulated on purpose?
Yeah.
When I go to a movie, at the time of this recording, it's Halloween time, and I go put myself into a horror movie, I'm purposely paying money to be scared, to be fearful, to be cognitively dysregulated, to think, with uncertainty. Was that monster going to kill that person? Are they going to be okay? I'm simulating this uncertainty and this dysregulation for entertainment purposes. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going, wait a second. Humans don't just think that getting regulated is our benchmark. We'll pay money to be dysregulated on purpose. Mm-hmm. I dysregulate those kids at camp. We pay to go see a horror movie and get dysregulated. And now I'm starting to ask myself, where else do we actively want to be dysregulated on purpose? Yeah. And is it always bad?
Yeah.
Because I think we assume it's almost like clinical therapeutic way we talk about it. Like dysregulation is like very serious and you got to go see a therapist. And we even talk about this way too, like map it to your personality and find where you're dysregulated and talk about it on that channel. And we're going to continue talking about that because I think it's a real thing people experience. But I want to understand the other side of it too.
Yeah.
The benefit of it, the positive of it, the seeking it out on purpose that we find ourselves in.
So if I'm understanding you right, the question is dysregulation always bad?
It's a discussion prompt more than a question.
Okay.
It's more like a ChatGPT prompt for our conversation than it would be a specific defined question.
Yes. Yeah, I got it.
As well as you articulated it. So It's a little bit broader than what you said, but sure. Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Didn't we just have a podcast on not creating too much clarity around things because it destroys the magic?
Yes. Damn it.
Stop trying to define things, introverted thinking.
Well, I understand that definition is important. I'm not trying to say that, but yes. So.
All right, I have been properly prompted.
Prompt away, young lady.
Antonia GPT is
Antonia GPT
properly prompted. So what's coming up for me as you're talking is the concept of eustress.
Sure.
So eustress is spelled EUSTRESS, and eustress is considered like you can almost think of it as like positive stress. Eustress is when we go on a roller coaster. Yeah. Or when we watch a scary movie, or we're in a situation where we are stressed out, like we're dysregulated with stress, but the context is safe and we leave with no harm. And there's a prevailing theory that eustress is really good for us because it helps us kind of get used to the feelings and learn that not every time we feel a spike of stress, it means disaster. It communicates to our brain that there are situations where we could feel like on a roller coaster, like you feel like you're about to die, right? Like, like you're 120 feet in the air.
Yes.
And you are on this tiny little cart on top of these rails. And there are moments when you free fall and you're like, oh, this is how I go.
That's what your brain thinks you're going to die.
Yeah. Everything inside of you is like, this is how I go.
Yeah.
And then you get caught at the bottom and you go up and you go through loops and it's like, oh, this is actually wee, right? This is fabulous. And so for every moment of eustress you have later on when you're dealing with a legitimate stress in life, and I don't mean like those are illegitimate, but like those are not the kinds that our body is preparing us for. That's not why cortisol gets dumped, right? Sure. Is to be on a roller coaster. It gets dumped so that we can deal with the problems of our life and be ready to flee or ready to fight or whatever. And so it improves our capacity to deal with the stress of life if we've built up this eustress capacity. This idea of dysregulation and these moments of being almost intentionally dysregulated, I think there's something to be said for them giving us opportunities to figure out how to get back into a regulated space. Because getting a bunch of teenagers, I would say that that's like emotionally dysregulated, even though it's an emotional spike up.
Yeah, it's an excitement. But I would say, maybe excitement is emotional dysregulation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not a baseline of like chill. It's right. you're
even somatic. Up. Even somatic, like your central nervous system is like humming heightened. Because you're like heightened and all these people are around you and it's all these human bodies and you're like in the energy of the room and it's all like, oh my gosh, and everything feels like really amped up.
Yeah. I actually benefit from that environment, but some people just they shut down in that kind of environment.
Right. Yeah. Well, but being able to hang there, and then afterwards you said that there were some of the teenagers that it was really hard for them to come down.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually an important moment for that person. It's an important moment for that person to be dysregulated in some way and then have to figure out how to bring themselves back down. That's the definition of self-regulating. Self-regulating is taking yourself from a spiked state, from a non-homeostatic place where everything inside of you, like dysregulation is basically everything is inside of you, like on like high vigilance, amped up, usually stress associated. And it's a matter of like believing that, it's an unsustainable situation. Like you can't be there all the time. And if you were there all the time, it would start showing up in your body. Your body would start to break down. And so having these moments of dysregulation, which are maybe even synthetically created, feels like a eustress situation. It's not actually totally bad to be dysregulated in a moment like that, because then you get to teach yourself and train yourself to come down on the other side. And there was no story associated with it.
Yeah.
If you're in a dysregulated space because you're a teenager and say your parents are fighting and they're like knocked down, drag out fighting in front of you, and it's incredibly distressing and very destabilizing and you don't know what to do about it, you're an audience member just like you're an audience member in a rally, in a youth camp rally, right? And you're observing something that is encouraging you to get all spun up. At the end of the youth camp rally, though, you leave and now you just got to try to like get your body to calm down enough to fall asleep that night.
Sure.
But in a situation with your parents, it's like now you have to like deal with all the story of it too. Similar amped up experience. One is happy, joyful. One is like distressed and, uncertain. But one of them, the calm down is like, okay, how do I get myself to self-soothe and get to a good place and calm myself down and fall asleep and then start all over tomorrow? And the other one is, how do I deal with all like the emotional and psychological fallout of having observed two people that I love and are my caretakers fight in front of me? And now I've got to like figure all of this narrative and story out as well as getting myself to a better space. So anyway, the point of all of that is, not only dysregulation is not always a bad thing, and in fact, in some situations or circumstances, we might seek it out.
Yes.
In order to help us figure out how to deal with like the other time periods of dysregulation, which are where the stakes are much higher.
By the way, if you're listening or watching right now, we'd love to hear from you. What's coming up as we're talking about this dysregulation idea? Have you represented dysregulation as always a negative in your life? Like, do you associate it with like bad and you've got to get away from it to get back into good? Or do you have a different relationship, maybe like I do? I didn't know I had this relationship with dysregulation, and I'm going to talk more about it too, but I think I go into dysregulation all the time. At least I would say probably on multiple channels, and I use it for my own ends, I think, in some ways. Probably I see there's a lot more utility there. So anyway, we'd love to hear, if you're listening or watching, come over and make a comment directly below this episode. What is your current snapshot relationship with dysregulation? Is it always bad, or do you have some positivity association with it too? Or have you not thought of it that much yet? Like, just tell us what's going on for you around this topic.
I actually have one more example of dysregulation not being bad too.
Okay.
Which is why it exists in the first place. Like, its purpose is to put us in a space of vigilance when threats are around us.
Okay.
And so if we're being mugged, we're going to be somatically dysregulated.
Yes.
And we want to be somatically dysregulated in those moments. Like, we want to be vigilant. We want to, we want to have all of our, we want that cortisol. We want the spike. We want the whole thing, because that's going to help us potentially get to the other side of that and come out alive.
Yeah.
So not all dysregulation is bad, quote unquote.
It keeps us alive.
Because it keeps us alive. That was its original intent.
So you're injecting this idea of sustainability. Mm-hmm. And so maybe dysregulation on a long enough timeline is not sustainable, and it actually causes trauma, which, so we know from the trench warfare of World War I, there were, the Germans and the British are in the trenches for months at a time, these rainy, mud-filled trenches, sitting there, often with nothing happening, like a lot of boredom, and then all of a sudden the boredom would be interrupted with shells, bombs flying out of the sky. And I'm sure modern wars this too. I'm just talking about this specific instance I've heard stories about. I'm sure anywhere on the planet there's warfare, this is happening. But they would report something called shell shock, meaning they had to be so vigilant for so long and basically dysregulated on such a long timeline. The sustainability of it started breaking down, and they started having trauma, like psychological breakdowns, traumatic, recurrences, flashbacks. The Vietnam War veterans talk about this. I'm sure anyone that's been through any kind of an armed conflict or hostility, I'm sure even more recent, there's examples right now in the world that people are probably experiencing this. The dysregulation dips over into trauma if it goes on too long.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then, could that be the positive though? Could somebody be excited enough along? Could somebody be that The question is, are we always trying to get back to like the homeostasis thermostat setting with regulation? Like, the assumption is that regulation lives here and it's always a drop point. Mm-hmm. And the goal is to get from the drop point, the bad thing, even if it's helping you stay alive, like a back alley mugging or a shell shock or whatever is going on, The goal is to get back to the set point on the thermostat.
Yeah.
Like if your regulation's like a thermostat setting of heat, hot and cold, you set it as this is self-regulated, and any drop point is bad, and I got to get back up to set point.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about spike points on top of set points. We only talk about drop points usually when we're talking about dysregulation. Maybe therapists talk about this. I don't, and I'm sure there is some clinical way that people are experiencing this.
Yep.
Like a manic person that can't shut it off. We've had people that have that in our lives and coaching
or
clients and stuff.
Or the spike of anxiety.
Well, that's the one I use a lot. So I would cognitively dysregulate myself, or at least allow myself to be dysregulated about future implications or circumstances, to then move that from the cognition of being dysregulated. I would allow myself, or even encourage myself, to dysregulate on the cognitive channel, create the anxiety there of what will happen, or maybe I'm creating with the emotion, hand it over the emotions and say, go do your thing, emotions. And then use that to just drive myself and others to get things accomplished.
Yeah.
It has since been reflected back to me. That's not always the best strategy for the people I love in my life, as evidenced by you, Antonia. So I've had to, over the past several years, start to shift that away from anxiety to other things. And excitement is one of the things I've attuned to.
Yeah.
But excitement is also a little bit dysregulating.
Yeah.
And when I come in very excitable into a room, in a space, similar to how I would in anxiety, sometimes you push back at that, because it's going to dysregulate your best thinking, which is more baseline thinking smoothly. So even though I bring a different strategy, I'm still net affecting the same thing. I'm dysregulating the space. I'm dysregulating the thoughts. I'm dysregulating something to try to hook up an motivation, and it's not working for you. But it definitely works for me. It's positive for me with that excitement.
I wouldn't
Similar to what I did with those kids.
I wouldn't say that excitement is as destabilizing for me as anxiety. Usually excitement's okay.
You probably it's okay, but other thinker people, like more thoughtful, calm people, it dysregulates them just as much as if it would anxiety. I've noticed this by the feedback I've gotten.
There's a lot of people who can't handle intensity of any kind.
Yeah.
It's just any sort of intensity is just like too much for them.
It signals to them dysregulation.
Yeah. Well,
high or low. They can't handle off the thermostat set point.
And I think that's usually what people mean when they say they're a highly sensitive person.
Yeah.
What they're saying is that intensity in a specific channel is too much for me. It like blows my instruments out.
They don't have any range on the set point of their thermostat for that channel.
Exactly. Yeah. And some people are highly sensitive physically, like somatically, they're highly sensitive. And so like bright lights, loud music, like textures on their skin, it's all really amped up. And so they can't handle very much intensity because like basic interaction is already intense. And some people are like that emotionally, cognitively, and I think intuitively or existentially. And so I'm a highly sensitive person in when it comes to smell. I just know this. Like I'm very sensitive to smells. And so anything with any perfume in it, any chemical, it's okay if it's a natural oil, right? Like if it's an essential oil, it's fine. But I'd say probably 80% of chemicals in perfumes give me almost an immediate headache, if not a migraine. And so I'm just like any intensity, like not the intensity of a natural essential oil, but the intensity of a chemical, like I can't do it, right? So there are people who have those, but they, I think what ends up happening is they just say, I'm a highly sensitive person, and it's a non-categorical, like it's not put in a channel or a category. It's just sort of an overarching, I'm a highly sensitive person. And it becomes a bit of an identity, right?
Well, I would assume that the more channels it's tethered to, the more defenses I'm allowed to have.
Correct.
So I don't really want to narrow. I would assume, not everybody, but it would be in the person's best interest to not narrowly define it. Because then if you could just fix that channel, it removes the ability to use that as a reason for other, like in other words, maybe it is mostly this channel, but then there's this other circumstance where you need to pull on that and you don't want to define it narrowly. You'd like to just say, I'm generally a highly sensitive person.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, at the worst case scenario, it could be a get out of jail free card for a lot of things.
100%.
The best case scenario, it's just, I'm not thinking to narrowly define it. I'm not applying motivation to the person. I'm just saying it could be, the capacity could be there to exploit it.
Well, I'll just say that I've known highly sensitive people who were very responsible and took things upon themselves and recognized that it was their sensitivity and that the world didn't need to change and alter for them. And then they just navigated the world and tried to make the best of it.
Sure.
I would say I'm like that when it comes to scents. Like, I mean, when I went to Europe, there's some musk. I don't even know what it is, but there's some perfume or musk or whatever that men wear in Europe. And I'm going to say like, I don't know. I ran into it so often. I want to say 1 out of 5 men wear it.
Well, you seem to report 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10.
It felt like friggin' everybody. And it felt especially like every Uber driver. And every time I got those cars, I was like, oh my gosh. I was hoping it didn't seem really rude that I did this most of the time. I had my shirt over my nose or like the window rolled down if they would let me or whatever, because it was just like, but I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, run some sort of campaign to get all of the men in Europe to stop wearing that particular musk or perfume. I'm like, it happened in Copenhagen. It happened in Valencia. It happened like in Sweden. I'm like, is this
Iceland? Yeah.
Yeah. This is a thing. This is just how it's going to be. So there are people who recognize that and realize that like the world's not going to change for them. So, but you don't wear that particular musk.
I need to know what it is so I can torture you if I knew.
Well, when we were in Egypt, didn't that dude talk you into buying something similar? And he's like, women go crazy over this. Like, your wife is going to be all over you. And then you put it on that one night when we were going to be like frisky. And I like come up to kiss you and I smell it and I'm like, oh God, what is it?
Start gagging. You're like, oh.
You're like, what? The guy says it would make it so that you could take your hands off of me. I'm like, you have to get in the shower right now. You have to wash that off. So anyway, what are we talking about again? Highly sensitive people. So I've known people who are responsible on one side, and then I've also known people who absolutely use it to control all their situations and contexts. Sure. I know totally those people who are like, I'm a highly sensitive person, and now all of a sudden they're the power player, and everybody has to organize around them. And then there's everybody in between, right? Yeah. Like there's the radically responsible person, and then there's the radically irresponsible person, and then everybody else falls.
And then there's the bell curve.
And then there's the bell curve.
Sure.
There are people who just can't handle, to go back to the point of origin, any intensity in certain channels. And so emotional intensity, if a person's like highly sensitive emotionally, a spiked emotion, no matter what it is, will sometimes feel like too much. Now, I've got a theory around that.
But it's going to be couched by that person in their mind, their representation of it, that it's negative, even if it's spike point.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Maybe negative's not even the right word, but
it's not good.
Spike point, drop point.
Right.
They're almost going to at least represent their own mind as drop point, even if it is a spike point.
Or just not okay.
Like just how I have a lot of energy when I enter situations, and there's a lot of people that can't handle the amount of energy that I bring. It's spike pointed off of a baseline. I have more energy than most. Yeah. And it dysregulates the people around me sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting to think like dysregulation isn't always negative. It's sometimes... It's positive for me, but now another person's experiencing positive is not the right word. It's like spike point dysregulation. They're definitely interpreting as negative. And so this is a really interesting kind of way to think about this in the world.
It's a really interesting conversation because to go back to the teenagers and getting them into a spike point allowed you to do better crowd control.
That's right. Well, it shut their brains off because if they're sitting in more rumination, they're thinking too much, honestly.
Yeah. And you got to get them all like whipped up and, and what's the point of that?
Well, to open their minds for God. I mean,
correct.
It's to shut their minds off so they're more receptive to the message, honestly.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes. That's the point of why the whole thing is set up. Yes. And so it's a form of indoctrination. And I think that we instinctively know this. Yeah. I think that we know that if we are in a dysregulated space, we're in some ways we're more vigilant, and in other ways we're more vulnerable.
Ooh.
And so dysregulation gets a bad rap when it comes to not just like you were talking about the anxiety ridden, like the dysregulation that makes us feel vigilant and gets our central nervous system all tight and scans the terrain to make sure that nobody's coming after us or whatever. There's also the kind that we hand ourselves over to, but then now has power over us. And I would say that for me, you walking into a room with like high energy, I think for me, the reason why it's quote unquote dysregulating is because it's such a mismatch of where I was.
Yeah.
Being a thinker type means that I don't play the realm of emotions and feelings like other people do. And I think especially having introverted feeling or authenticity way down there, it's my 7th function, or in Dr. John Beebe's model, it's the trickster energy. I mean, the theory I was hinting at before, when somebody can't handle any sort of spike of emotion or any sort of intensity of emotion is, and I'm not saying this is all the time true. Okay. This is just like Antonia Dodge theory. Don't write this down. None of it's research. Like, this is not research. This is not a thing that I think is absolutely true.
You're patterning and speculating. Sure.
Don't know what I'm talking about.
That's the whole point of this episode. I'm not saying we're landing the plane.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, but there are some things that I say that I'm like, yeah, I think I might be right on this one. And this one is like 100% pattern. Don't think I'm right, but I don't think I'm wrong either. But I don't think I'm right. I suspect that when a person can't handle intensity of emotion, it's because they have a lot of backlogged, unprocessed emotions. And intensity of emotion wakes some of that up. Like, if you can't handle anger, you probably have a lot of backlogged, unprocessed anger. If you can't handle anxiety, you probably have a lot of backlogged, unprocessed anxiety. If you can't handle grief, you probably have a lot of backlogged, unprocessed grief. That's just, I mean, that's sort of the pattern I've observed.
I've noticed this, like, even physically, like my father, like if I go up to like touch his shoulders, he like it hurts to touch his shoulders. He doesn't like stretch or like work on his muscles. He's a strong person and he's worked all his life and he's very physical. He's a lot of physicality, but he hasn't like taking care of his body like in a stretching and like caretaking way. It's more in a strengthening and like just do things way.
Yeah.
You know, more of an older model. And so I've noticed that his body is not receptive to like, if I want to like touch his shoulder or something, it hurts.
Yeah.
But my shoulder doesn't hurt when somebody, because I stretch and I do a little bit of yoga and I'm more nimble and I haven't like let it condense. So he's got almost unprocessed like body stuff.
Yeah. Like
he probably needs to like release muscles, and there's stuff that's being held tight in his body that hurts now.
Yeah.
And I think that could dip into emotions, cognition, intuition, like
100%.
whatever. That's a physical manifestation too of the things you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Like there's almost like this holding of dysregulation or bottlenecked something for a while.
Well, and that's a whole point of I think regulation, I think maybe I said this on a previous podcast, but I think what regulation basically is it's a nicer way of saying self-control.
Yeah.
And we don't like the phrase self-control because that feels very like control feels like an oppressive word.
Yeah.
So even the idea of self-control, because we feel like we're like handing too much power over to other people, so we don't really like the idea of control. But regulation is an idea that we can get behind, because then that's just a matter of like sort of constantly moving the needle and the instruments to make sure that it's as balanced as possible.
It's adjustment focused. Process adjustments.
Process adjustment and balance.
Yeah.
And so dysregulation by definition is like imbalanced. It's like, it's not, the needle is not at the center of the instrument. It's like spiking or dropping or whatever. And life is going to inevitably dysregulate us. We're going to be, I mean, we're going to go through spike points and low points like multiple times throughout a day in all of the channels.
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking. Is that true? Like, one way you could represent it is like the needle, both spike and drop are all in the red. In other words, like if you're looking at the dashboard on your car, we're talking about like dropping or raising, but what if both excitement and anxiety is both in the red? It's just I put a positive spin on the one and we put a negative spin on the other. But like if I'm around that hardcore thinker that likes to ride the middle, both to them feel red. Like both feel like spike points. Both are like maybe spike and drop isn't the right way to say it, because it's like both feel like the margin, the engine's overheating.
Well,
the engine itself is overheating.
Yes.
And I say it's for a good reason, but the person experiencing saying, but the engine's still overheating. That's all I know is I'm dysregulated. You might think it's positive, but the engine's overheating, Joel. Stop it, stop it, stop it.
Well,
that's what I'm trying to understand is like, is it overheating at all, or is there a qualitative nature to how it overheats?
The whole point,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
metaphorically.
The whole point is, I think the word sustainable is really important here.
Sure.
The whole point is like, what are sustainable actions? And can you be amped up in a spike point of excitement 24/7? And I know, I mean, like, I know you can.
Okay. So let's take the car metaphor. Let me apply that immediately.
Right.
I'm driving down the freeway and I'm coming up against the needle on my car is really hot.
Yeah.
But I've got to get around this car in front of me. It's dangerous. Like there's something happening here that's dangerous.
Right.
I need to increase the speed, which is going to put me in the red temporarily to get around this big truck. Right. So I'm going to dysregulate my vehicle.
Yes.
To accomplish something to get around this truck.
Yes.
Then I pull in the right lane once I go, and I start to pull back the speed to try to drop that heat needle down.
Yep.
I would say, okay, that's a good reason it was a positive dysregulation. It
was
served
needed.
me.
It served you. Yeah.
In a way.
Yes.
for a short time.
Correct.
But if I try to drive at that with the heat needle up like that, even if I'm like, it's good, look how fast I'm getting to my destination. This is for a positive reason. The sustainability of that, like the engine will not be able to bear it for forever.
Correct. Yeah.
So the engine will just break down under the weight of it.
Yes.
If I keep running it that hot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you're talking about.
And
like the sustainability part of it.
Correct. And we have to find moments and ways to downcycle to give our nervous systems a rest from those spike moments.
Sure.
Like the book, Why Don't Zebras Get Ulcers? Do you remember that whole concept of the zebra shake? Okay.
Yeah, they shake out the nervous system.
Yeah. So like when a zebra is being attacked by like, I don't know, like a lion or whatever, a cougar is like after it. Do cougars and zebras live in the same parts of the world?
Let's say lion.
I'm going to say lion.
We know for a fact lion.
I think they do, but I don't know that for a fact.
Tiger, lion.
So it's being chased by a lion. If the lion is unsuccessful and the zebra is able to escape the lion and is not the lion's lunch, then the question is like, that's an incredibly anxiety producing moment for that zebra. That was an incredibly somatically and probably emotionally dysregulated moment.
Yeah.
So how many times is a zebra going to get chased in its lifetime and, not made into a snack? Like, how does that zebra not just deal with constant anxiety and constant ulcers?
Yeah.
And there's something to be said here for like the abstraction of timelines and tomorrow. And it's like the zebra's not worrying about being like chased again tomorrow and like, oh God, is a lion going to come after me? So there is something to be said around that. But also there's this thing that zebras do called a zebra shake, where after the threat is complete, they just sort of shake out their central nervous system. They just shake the whole thing out and effectively release the anxiety and the dysregulation that was produced. The tension and the vigilance that was produced so that they can get on with their day, because they can't stay in that heightened state of vigilance all the time. It's unsustainable. It would destroy their bodies.
Yeah.
And so they've got this like muscle sort of shake. And the book is like talking about like how to create a zebra shake for your life, basically how to get your system back to a somatically self-regulated state when you believe that you've been threatened. Now, one of the really big challenges to the contemporary world is that we experience dysregulation in situations that are actually not that threatening.
Yeah.
Because we're not really good at determining what a real threat is anymore. We don't have a sense of perspective. Like you're on the Serengeti and you're fleeing predators that are like 3 times your size, right? With like, paws that are the size of dinner plates or whatever. I mean, did they have dinner plates at that time? But yeah, I think they probably did. But like you're fleeing these predators and you get a sense of perspective on what a real threat is when you come home and like your spouse is salty. Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, but I almost died. So we're probably going to get through this. But in the contemporary world where we don't have that many physical threats, we don't have threats around our food for the most part. We don't have threats around our shelter. It's not like warring, in this country, it's not like a warring tribe is going to go like, oh, I like your house better than mine. I'm going to just come take it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, we don't have to really deal with most of those things.
There's micro concerns that individuals deal with anywhere, but you're talking about the macro concerns of like war and famine and these like,
these things
bigger
happen.
Group threats.
That's right. These things happen. And those people are they have perspective.
Yeah.
Now they have to deal with the trauma that comes along with it, but they have a sense of perspective on like what actually matters. In this society that we live in, we're super spoiled. Like we've really lost our perspective of the things that matter and don't matter. And so what ends up happening is we end up getting really dysregulated around relatively mundane things. And because mundane things can create this spike, this dysregulated spike, we can have kind of almost like a low-grade version of that all the time. And it feels sustainable, but it's not. It's actually breaking our bodies down. It's almost like that complex PTSD concept of like little hits all the time.
Yeah.
And it becomes sort of a bit of a death by 1,000 cuts.
I imagine that most of the time we feel dysregulated, the channel we say it is or feel like it is probably not actually the channel that it is.
Usually not, no.
Like there's this concept that was going around the last 5 or 10 years. I mean, this idea of microaggressions. Mm-hmm. So a microaggression is like I feel a hostility toward a person. It's making me feel dysregulated. Like whatever they might have said a word or looked at me in a certain way.
Yeah, it's triggering.
It triggered a dysregulation in me. And I'm saying, I would say, I don't think that's actually the channel we're dysregulated on. I think it's something else that's allowing permission to express somewhere else or whatever. Like, because that doesn't seem like that would dysregulate person. All things being equal, it's rare that many people would be triggered by something so minor. So what I think is there's a lot of trauma or dysregulation living. It's like a live wire somewhere else.
Yes.
It's almost like, not an excuse, that's the wrong way to say it, but this is almost like an access point for the feeling that I'm already carrying.
Yes.
If I'm wired to get triggered by a microaggression or whatever, I'm imagining that I'm already amped up. I'm already massively dysregulated. So it's almost like a bruise that somebody just bumps against.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurt really bad. But it's like it was already bruised. I didn't just bruise you with that microaggression. That's you now getting an access point to something else that's happening. And so I'm not picking on people or anybody that has that experience or feels that way. I'm using that illustratively to say, I don't think that's the channel that the dysregulation is. What's being reported as dysregulating is not actually where the channel it lives on. And that's where I think personality is going to help us map this better.
Yes.
Because I think we're all representing on a channel that feels more comfortable. Like whenever I'm dysregulated, it's almost always, not always, but often it's cognitive.
Yeah.
And I feel comfortable displaying it on the emotional channel because I can handle the emotion of it. I don't feel out of control when I'm in the emotions. Even if other people would think I'm out of control, I feel like I'm performing out how I feel to basically I'm signaling the world, begging for help to help me regulate my cognitive channel. But I'm embarrassed and humiliated to say I need cognitive regulation because that has meaning laden with it that I'm stupid. I can't think clearly. I'm
can't get
dumb.
anything done.
I'm, whatever. Right. I can't get things accomplished. I can't handle extra thought or responsibility. Like there's so many self-judgments and shame. I'd rather have it in a channel that I feel, I would do. What's crazy is I'll behave emotionally in a bad way that other people would judge me, but because it's an emotional channel that I feel like I'm in control of, I don't care about their judgment because I'm in control of it.
Right.
So I take it off the channel of cognition, I move it to emotion, but it's not really emotion that I'm dysregulated on. That's what people see. It's the cognitive channel. And they try to calm me down there and it only makes me more frustrated.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's the channel that we say it is. It's the channel we're more comfortable with.
Yes.
That's actually what we say it is that channel. And I mean, that's my assumption. I'm still waiting to see that bear out in some things.
No, I'm pretty sure that that's a thing that's happening all the time, is that we are misdiagnosing the channel of dysregulation.
So if that's the case, then that needle, like I'm already starting to reshape my thinking around this in this conversation. Maybe you could ratify or push back on this metaphor. Instead of a set point that drops and spikes, I'm actually just seeing a needle that both positive set and drop points, like narratively, on the channel that it's happening, we just experience it as a spike point. We just experience it as in the red, that engine's overheating. Dysregulation always feel like the engine's overheating. Now, in the room with the teenagers, I'm overheating the engine on purpose. I'm ramping them up into an emotional frenzy. We're all okay with that emotional, as long as I don't sustain that for the entire, it would be unsustainable for like try to sit down and have a meal or do something else or go to bed that night. We have to change the energy and now re-regulate them to go to sleep that night. We can't just keep them unregulated. It's useful in the meeting, but not after the meeting.
Well,
right?
And that's the other one, is it's either spiked up or it's underperforming.
Sure.
That's another way that it's dysregulated. Like,
I guess it could be flatlining, like the engine's off.
It's
cold, it's a cold engine.
Yeah, when you're like totally, when your body is totally, chill for sleep.
Yeah.
Well, that's not sustainable all the time either. Like that, like sort of.
Well, I guess what I'm just changing
down.
is like the set point narrative, positive, negative, like good narrative, bad narrative. I'm changing it to go from narrative to just energy itself. Like,
yes.
Like just deal with the energy of the spike itself or not. Like it's in the red. I'm putting a positive narrative to it or a negative narrative to it, but it's just in the red or it's not. I'm putting a positive spin to it, but it's either in the red or it's not, or it's the engine's off or it's not. But the engine off isn't like bad and the red isn't good, or the engine off isn't good and the red is bad. It's just the raw 0 to 10 output through the entire system with no narrative. And dysregulation means that it's in the red. Without narrative. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Well,
that's what I'm coming around to.
I mean, as long as red also includes underperforming. Because it's not always a spike. I mean, I know you're not trying to,
so that's why
but I mean, like anytime.
Maybe this metaphor breaks down, so let's work with it.
Not necessarily. I'm just saying that it's anything that would be unsustainable.
Okay.
All right. And so you're trying to get back to a chill, like you're trying to get to a space where it's almost like, when we're working our muscles, we tear them through activity, like something that's like too much.
Them.
We dysregulate them, and then we give them rest so that they can repair themselves.
Well, we actually traumatize them. We destroy them and rip them and create trauma in our muscles.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Yeah. And then we rest, and the rest is where the muscle actually gets built, is through the rest time period. So if somebody works out all the time and never rests, they never give themselves sufficient sleep, they won't get bigger.
Well, and it's scar tissue that's actually happening, right?
I think so.
That's what's happening. Like the muscle is building scar tissue when you rip it. Is that what's...
I don't know if that's technically
I'm
true.
bearing out my ignorance now.
I don't know, actually.
I need to probably research that.
Yeah. But I do know that they rip and then they repair. And so I don't know if it's technically considered scar tissue or not. That seems extreme to me, but that might be the case. So anyway, so the point of that is
the point of what I'm saying, Joel, is not scar tissue or not. Why are you bringing ancillary things in here that don't have any meaning to this?
That's right.
Stay on my point, sir. I'm with you. Okay.
Just long enough for me to state it. When we become dysregulated, we're trying to find our space that we can. I just keep thinking centered nervous system.
Yeah.
All right. So when we're fully regulated, it means none of these channels, somatic, emotional, cognitive, or existential, are telegraphing a danger to our body, right? That's the whole point of all the other, like, no matter how we're dysregulated, something inside of us goes, this is not okay. This is not okay.
Okay.
Now, in a moment when we're peaked up and we're like really excited, we might not have the narrative that this is not okay, but our body knows that it was not sustainable. Our body knows that if we were to be doing that 24/7, that would not be okay. Our bodies would start to break down.
Okay.
So it's anything that is unsustainable over the long haul. And we downcycle, or we find our calm nervous system, or calm soma, to be able to repair again. And so to go back to the point of origin, which is dysregulation always a bad thing? The answer is, well, you could say that, but it's also inevitable. Like, dysregulation is inevitable, and it's inevitable in every channel, and it's inevitable in most. We're not going to find a context where we're not going to be dysregulated in some way. And in fact, if things are too easy on us, that can create its own form of dysregulation, right? Like, we know that because we're in a culture and a society of people who never exercise, or very rarely. Like, there are some people who exercise, but most of us do not get a sufficient amount of exercise because the context is too comfy. Right. And does that dysregulate us? Absolutely, it does. It causes stress on our bodies when we are overweight. Like, every extra pound of fat on your body is 3 pounds of pressure on your knees. So if you're like 10 pounds overweight, that's 30 pounds extra on your knees. If you're 20 pounds, it's 60 pounds, and so on and so on and so on. So if you're like 50 pounds overweight, that's 150 extra pounds of pressure on your knees. That is incredibly somatically dysregulating for your body.
That's very dysregulating. And there's somebody right now they're having issue with you saying that. It's dysregulating them what you're saying. Like, it's making them feel maybe shame. Maybe because they struggle with this, or they can't help it for medical reasons, or like whatever, they're like feeling like, ugh. The channel that you're going to put it on is most likely not the channel you're feeling it. Like, if the person is truly physically dysregulated, like you're talking about, and they're triggered about that and they're feeling bad about it, it's an illustration, I think, of them moving it from a channel where the dysregulation is over to a channel that they feel more comfortable in, maybe emotional,
right?
Like, I can deal with it there.
Yeah.
I can't deal with it on the channel that it lives on.
Right.
You're triggering me there, so I'm going to move it to a channel that I feel more comfortable being triggered, or I can handle dysregulation on this channel, so I don't like it seeing it here.
Right.
So even though I'm not emotionally dysregulated, I'm going to take the dysregulation here that is physical, and I'm going to move it into emotion. I'm going to amp it up and make it an emotional problem.
Right.
Because I feel better there. Basically what I'm saying is somebody might take it from that channel of getting triggered and move it to a channel where they feel more comfortable on. And then keep it on that channel, and they're not addressing the original issue, basically. That's what I think I do that all the time. So I'm assuming other people do too. I don't know that to be true, but I'm probably right because it happens to me so much that and I see it in our clients and stuff. So I think most people do this.
I think that this is an entirely human thing to do. I think this is the point of being able to understand that there are all these channels of dysregulation.
Absolutely.
The whole point of it is to go, am I accurately diagnosing what's going on for me?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I do think that people have a tendency to, and we do that as a bypass.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, you mentioned this before. When you're cognitively dysregulated, you put it on the channel of emotional.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you can handle it there. And
I'm in control of it at least.
Yeah, you're in control of it, and then you won't feel so embarrassed in the cognitive. But the challenge with that is that you can't get regulated cognitively through an emotional means.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, you have to hit it where it's at.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because what's crazy is I've humiliated and embarrassed myself actually on the emotional channel, thinking I'm in control of it, and you'll be like, Joel, that was not okay. Like you undermined yourself. I'm like, but it doesn't matter because I'm in control of it, so I'm willing to take the hit on that.
Right.
Whereas if I had just been a little bit more willing to be quote unquote humiliated on the cognitive channel, I could have just addressed it where it lived. But I'm doing so many bypasses to try to cover the fact that I'm insecure, that I'm even dysregulated here at all.
Yeah.
I would be more okay with people thinking I'm dysregulated on something that I really know in my heart I'm not really dysregulated on.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Emotions. Oh, you think it's emotional. It's actually cognitive, but I'm hiding that and allowing you to believe this because now at least I'm in control of it and I know it.
Yes.
And so I'm even willing to let people think badly of me about this channel to protect the insecurity of this channel.
Well, what's crazy?
Which is so insidious.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that you said in order to not be humiliated, but you might actually, weirdly enough, you might be more humiliated going the direction you're talking about.
Of course, I am. Yes, but absolutely.
But the other direction, the non-bypass way, isn't humiliation. It's being humbled.
Correct.
Right. And so we'll even allow ourselves to be humiliated so we're not humbled.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so
even that I'm willing to accept. Like
absolutely.
Especially on that channel, because I feel like I'm in more control of that channel.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And humbled is acknowledging that something's bigger than us.
Yeah.
Right. And like that maybe we need to own something. Right. And it's like humbled is like, oh, I thought I knew this better than I did, or I thought I was more on this than I actually am. So anyway, to go back to this concept of being sort of we're all basically on some level we're all either currently somatically dysregulated or setting ourselves up to be soon by not moving enough, like physically.
Yeah.
And so we're just rife with it. And the kind of the point that I was talking about is we lack perspective on what's actually a threat. And so like things are really cushy. And so we end up creating these unsustainable lives. We don't know it because it's like sort of a low grade version of it. And our dysregulation tends to be like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
And to kind of basically go back to that whole concept of eustress.
Yeah.
There are times when it's almost like intentional dysregulation.
Yes.
Is actually healthy for us.
Yes.
And but it needs to be in a context that we feel like we have control over and we have sufficient rest available to us afterwards. So going to the gym is a dysregulating experience for our bodies, right? Because it's not rest, it's not calm soma. Like we might get our heart rate up into the red zone.
Yeah.
When we're doing cardio, or we might be, like we mentioned before, ripping muscles, or like causing quote unquote like little mini traumas in our body. But we're not doing it with a bunch of like anxiety producing neurotransmitters coursing through our bodies. We're doing it with intention, and then we get to go home and then we get to rest. So these moments of dysregulation, kind of like the moments of eustress, when we have the capacity to go back to a regulated space afterwards and rest from it, they're actually not bad for us at all. Like they're sort of healthy for us. Now, that might not be what most people consider dysregulation. Like we might be kind of playing fast and loose a little bit with these terms, but basically what we're saying is that anything that's like not perfect baseline in the center, right? Not perfect, like everything is calm and centered. And a little bit goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to actually go back to something that you mentioned, which was entering a room excited, and people around you might feel a little emotional dysregulation from it. I know for me, as a thinker type, one of the challenges I experience is that when I get in an emotion, it's much more difficult for me to cycle it out than I have observed with with feeler types.
Sure.
And so if I'm in a calm state and and usually emotional regulation for me means almost like a flat line. Like I'm not really tuned into an emotion at all, but it's like just kind of like in a calm space. And you walk in and your intensity, even if it's excitement, is like off the charts.
Yeah.
I will struggle in that moment because there was no on-ramp. I'm like feeling nothing. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling like an extreme version of a feeling.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it almost like it's in those cartoons, those Warner Brother cartoons when like the thermostat for a hot day goes all the way to top and explodes. Sure. Like that's what it will feel like because it came out of nowhere. And I don't think of myself as like a highly sensitive person emotionally. I'm getting more sensitive as I get older, especially doing coaching and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I think it's not so much the quote unquote the dysregulated experience. I think it's more like I didn't have an on ramp to it.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily have an off ramp. So it's like being dumped in a gym. And then all of a sudden I'm like pulling mass amounts of weights.
Yes.
And I'm like, how did that happen?
So I have so many things, but the gym thing and then what this is stimulating, I got to say quickly before I forget them all.
Go for it.
I think it's causing the problem. Part of us being more dysregulated is because we are so regulated in our lives. In other words, when I leave my house in my neighborhood, I walk on a perfectly flat, evenly spaced sidewalk. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely no dysregulation in my soma to walk on that sidewalk. It's perfect. And so I can actually start to downcycle and get used to this perfect information. We talked about this last episode, right? This perfect information world where everything's just taken care of. There's no surprises. There's nothing stressing me or causing challenge or figuring something out. I can like almost walk with my eyes closed. There's maybe a few things I'll trip on the sidewalk, but I could almost close my eyes if I'm walking slow enough and not trip the entire way around the neighborhood without running into anything or hurting myself.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like, I think that's the problem is what you're saying. The reason why you're not okay with me entering a room with that spiked sense is because our lives are too calm and quiet all the time. Everything is too stable and safe. Mm-hmm. I walk up the exact same spaced stairs from my downstairs to my upstairs every single day. It never changes. Mm-hmm. It's 100% predictable. It's perfect information. It's a perfect step. Like I know exactly the step. I've got it memorized. I don't even have to be thinking as I go up and down the steps.
Yeah.
My soma is not challenged at all. Now, what if I rip the steps out of our home and replace them with a pile of boulders that we had to like climb up these boulders? We'd do it a little bit differently every time. Maybe we'd start to get into a pattern or a rhythm, but what if we change the structure of the boulders every few weeks to mix it up? And every time I want to go upstairs, I have to like sort of like climb a new way.
Yeah.
Well, in a way, I'm now never allowing myself to get down to like this level of kind of baseline blah. I'm always kind of keeping myself at this like, so am I like, again, we're a little, I think, out of the realm of regulation and dysregulation at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you couched it this way, so I'm going to address it this way. I think the premise of the idea I'm bringing to the table is not all dysregulation is bad. Mm-hmm. And the second idea on that is actually we may need more of it, not less of it, but curated in the proper channel with full awareness, like I did with those teenagers in that room.
Yeah.
And we need to understand what's happening. It's not always something just to be managed and brought back down to the quiet sidewalk, flat sidewalk. No, that's actually not real good for us either. Like, in fact, that might actually be more dangerous than everybody being dysregulated all the time. Because then we synthetically dysregulate against this life that isn't giving us any excitement or dynamic, kind of that perfect information we talked about in the last episode. We then create things to try to instill that because it's not being provided for us naturally.
Right.
So our immune system, metaphorically, our immune system has nothing to fight disease-wise, so we invent allergies in a way. And so this is where now microaggressions, whether it's the channel they should be on or not, they become a major problem because I don't have enough challenge on real things in my life.
Well, I think microaggressions are more related to
right, or an example of that. Maybe that's true.
You know what I mean? Like I can't take any more anger because I have too much unprocessed anger.
That's a loaded example because it's not exactly right. But
yeah, I think that's
you know
a
what I
different
mean. It's
thing.
like something else is like upset. It's like more than I'm dysregulated. But it's like we're dysregulated because everything's so even keeled around us. And people are going to argue this. Like, no, my life's not stable and balanced. But zoom out 2 clicks and like our lives are pretty cushy in the West. Maybe not everybody has it this way on a micro level, but on a macro level, most of us aren't like under that much duress on most days, especially if you're listening to a podcast. You have enough time to lean back and listen to a podcast like this.
Well, I mean, that's,
we have comfortable sitting here and giving this podcast. Same thing. We're in a pretty safe place.
That's where safetyism starts to, I mean, like the fact that we're all so kind of spoiled. And we really are. Like we don't, the only reason why we don't know how spoiled we are in the West is because we've not lived the life that almost all of our ancestors lived.
And a lot of people still live around the world.
And a lot of people still live around the world.
Yeah,
that's right.
Like not everybody's in this environment that we're in.
Correct. We are ridiculous. And it's very hard for us to get any perspective around this.
Yes.
We claim
fish and water.
We claim dysregulation on all sorts of stuff that it's like actually not that big of a deal.
Yes.
So I would agree with that. I think we are overly coddled for sure. But I would say that the most important element of any conversation around regulation and dysregulation is how much capacity do I have to self-regulate?
That's how much choice do I have?
Not just choice, but capacity.
Okay.
Like as in skill, because I think self-regulation is a skill.
Yeah.
Now, what we're talking about right now with the idea of is there any value to dysregulation? The answer being like, yeah, there is value to dysregulation. And we might be taking some liberties with the term when we talk about it in relationship to our body and whether or not like working out in a gym is technically considered somatic dysregulation or not. I think it actually is very applicable. I think it is like the Eustress concept.
You're traumatizing the body.
Whether or not we're being like clinically accurate when we talk about that, I would say that the important question is how much skill do I have to self-regulate when I'm in a dysregulated space? That's always the number one most important question. Because if I don't have the capacity to self-regulate, then all of these little daily dysregulations are a bad thing. All of them. Okay. All of them are a bad thing. Like any moment of dysregulation is a bad thing if I don't have the capacity to get myself back to a self-regulated space.
Yeah.
If I can't zebra shake it out, then I will get ulcers. Then I will be terrified, right?
Well, and we know it's a skill because that's what parenting is.
Right.
Like my 3 children, the whole job that I had was to help them self-soothe, self-regulate.
Yeah.
Not throw a temper tantrum at the age of 17 when they don't get their way like they did when they were 2.
Correct.
No, regulate that emotion. You don't get to just like flip out and get what you want.
Right.
Even at 2, you throw something off the high chair onto the floor. Okay, you don't get that now. Like we train our kids to be regulated, and it's not okay to be dysregulated all the time. Now, maybe that's breaking down as parenting because I see adults behaving like children all the time, but whatever. I can't help that, but...
Well, and to not enter, and here's like the really important concept, is to not just learn the skill of self-regulation to be able to be an overall healthier person, which is really super duper important. But the real kicker is to observe all the ways in which we are in unhealthy co-regulation situations, aka codependence, where we are incapable, or at least we believe we are, that we don't have the skill. We probably think of it as talent or just innate ability, but we don't have the ability to regulate on a certain channel. So we are always looking to somebody else to regulate us there. There are ways to help somebody do a healthy co-regulation. There's therapy, there's what they call limited parenting, right? Yeah. There are ways where sometimes a person is so dysregulated that you have to do some, like you have to do the heavy lifting for them and get them into a place of regulation.
Like parenting. Yeah.
Just so they know what it feels like at all.
Yes.
Because they can't, like you can't hit a target that you're not familiar with, right? They just to be able to know what it feels like to be regulated. Sometimes they have to borrow the regulation of somebody else, right? And like learn what it's like to, to have a centered nervous system and to have a relaxed soma and to have your emotions not be spiked all the time and to not be in a cognitively, spun up place or worrying about, the nature of existence and death or whatever, like just to be like, oh, this is what it's like to be like present and okay. So even what could be called unhealthy co-regulation has a space if the person doesn't know what it feels like to be self-regulated at all. Yeah. But even in those contexts, the goal is always to get the person to a place where they can start regulating themselves. And so is dysregulation always a bad thing? I would say no. I would say it's an inevitable thing. And in fact, putting ourselves in dysregulated places, which we don't really need to do much of because the world throws plenty of things at us that dysregulate us. But doing it maybe with more conscientiousness or being aware of our dysregulation is super valuable so that we can get to a place where we like learn to self-regulate in these low stakes environments where it's really actually not that big of a deal. It's like, oh, I'm all dysregulated because I've got to go to like parent teacher conference and I've got to go talk to my kid's teacher and she's given him some terrible grades this year and I've got to go confront her and I'm kind of like, relationally dysregulated and my extroverted feeling or whatever. And then later on, I'm like, why was that a thing? That was like not that big of a deal. I just went and talked to her. It was fine. Right? I was like, why was I dysregulated? But if we're in that space, that fighting space with another person, and afterwards we're like, yeah, and screw them. And then every time the teachers mention, like, you go off on a rant, right? And you're like, I hate that person. And like, they like just the very mention of them gets you all in like an amped up space. Well, then that dysregulation is actually really bad for you because you're not finding yourself back to center. It's perpetually dysregulating you. And over time that chips away at your soul. And over time it's like incredibly emotionally unhealthy. And obviously that person is going to be very easy to trigger. Right. And so, there's it goes on like a kind of a trajectory downward. Mm-hmm. And so, what's the phrase? It's not a problem unless it's a problem. Is dysregulation a problem? Yeah. When it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. But is it always a problem? Well, not if it's not a problem. Right. Like if you can get yourself back up to base, to center, then you should be fine. And so I think that's probably how I'd sort of culminate this whole conversation.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting from it then is that, I guess I just push back on this immediate response or reaction to, oh, you're dysregulated, we got to fix this. I think that's basically the premise I'm coming from is like, I think there's utility to it in a way, like going to a horror movie. Somebody's scared. I don't take them out of the theater and try to comfort them. I let them go through the entire process of that movie and be scared.
Yeah.
Unless it's my kid and they're crying. And then I actually do jump in and do parenting. And I believe they can't handle it.
Right.
And so I take them out of the theater and say, that's pretty scary, right, buddy? Like when they're a little kid. But the idea of taking somebody out of a theater because they're under duress of dysregulation is nuts. But we do this all the time. We take people out of the dysregulation that's helping them. Like if someone came into my meeting with all those kids and tried to tamp down the energy and get us all more regulated, which actually I had that. Like people that had more of like a school teacher education framework were like in a summer camp environment, like, what the heck? You're getting these kids amped up. It goes against everything you're supposed to do in school. In school, you're supposed to down cycle everything and keep everything calm at all times. You never want to get excitable kids.
Yeah.
Because you lose, in their minds in school, you lose control. So anytime people from that ecosystem would come into the camp, I was in battle with the leadership there. Like maybe a group brought their kids and they had more of that viewpoint. They would try to regulate us all down to more neutral tone. I'm like, you're killing the ability for us to have a fun experience here or to open up the minds for God or whatever we're trying to do. Like there's a reason we're doing this.
Yeah.
And you're actually destroying something good that's happening right now, thinking it's helpful because of your framework and what you see this as.
Yeah.
And so I think it's contextual and I think it's different for different contexts.
For sure.
Not all dysregulation is dysregulation.
Right.
And not all self-regulation is self-regulation. I think it's much broader than it's been couched in academic, therapeutic, and maybe even some coaching frames.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think there's more here than how our society talks about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm positing that today to say I think that's going to be injected, at least from my side, into this entire framework and thinking.
Yeah.
Is I'm not going to, personally, I don't think we should approach it as, oh, dysregulation is always bad. We just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, certain Jungian analysts would put people into dysregulated states all the time to get behavior change.
Yep.
Like somebody was like worried about, there's an apocryphal tale of one of the Jungian analysts that somebody was like struggling with suicide. So they put him in a car and drove 100 miles an hour down the road and made them fear for their life to confront death. They dysregulated them on purpose. They had to confront death. And they were like, actually, I don't want to kill myself.
Yeah.
It was like, that was the therapy model. And I'm like, that would never be modern therapy now. That's like the 1950s style of like kind of
guerrilla psychology,
like guerrilla, like just like, guerrilla warfare and psychology, like help. But in a way it's like, there's more realness to that in some ways that I'm like, there's a life to that. For me, there's a draw to that because I feel like it's more real than sitting there and clinically talking about our feelings in a calm way.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes we have to be dysregulated to work on the thing.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm trying to open up more space for it because I think that the natural order is like, no, bad, let's get it suppressed.
Yeah.
And you talk about emotional spiking. I'll just end with this. Introverts tell me all the time that I disrupt their lives too. It's not just people that are thinkers. It might be a feeler that's a very emotional person, and I come with a lot of energy, and that's also distressing. Like,
yeah,
I was in my quiet introvert space, and you're too much. You're dysregulating that space.
Yeah,
and I'm like, deal with it. I don't always say that. Sometimes I say,
you don't.
Sometimes I say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but sometimes I say just deal with it. I'm being hyperbolic. I'd love to hear, if you're watching or listening, what's coming up for you. How are you seeing this in your life? Are you always couching dysregulation as bad? Are you saying it good? Are you getting some more nuance? Is this conversation unpacking? What nuance have you gotten out of this conversation? Maybe you haven't had a microphone, but you've been the third person in this convo, and I want to hear from you, because your voice is going to help us, I think, frame this stuff out. So if you'd come over underneath this podcast, maybe it's the video or the audio portion, even over at our website, personalityhacker.com, leave a comment, ask a question, but more importantly, share your story around what's coming up around this. I think this is some really powerful stuff that we're tuning into. Any other last minute comments, Antonia? You feel good?
Yeah, no, I feel pretty complete.
Right. While you're at personalityhacker.com, don't forget, we've got all sorts of programs and products and courses there for you to understand the map of your personality and attune to things like regulation, dysregulation, your ergonomic life. I recommend starting with an owner's manual for your best fit personality type. If you don't know what your type is, we also have an assessment, a quiz, just to find that out, and some processes of verification, which I really encourage you to go check out. And we're continuing to build more and more programs, products, and ways for you to get involved. So check out all of that at personalityhacker.com. My name is Joel Markwitt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And we'll talk with you on the next Personality Hacker podcast.